Hey everybody, welcome back to Riot Lance, the show all about Tabletop Simulator, tabletop battles. So today I wanted to not do a battle report for you, but instead just to show you Tabletop Simulator and kind of how we use it to play our games. If you've seen any of our battle reports and you're wondering how we actually go about playing in Tabletop Simulator, this is basically going to show you how we do that. And I just want to kind of show you a lot of the highlights of the benefits of using Tabletop Simulator. It's a great tool for 40k players like myself that can't really play games at stores all the time or play with my friends that live around the country. Um, so yeah, let's hop into it. So Tabletop Simulator is on Steam, and it's almost always, if there is a Steam sale going on of some type, the summer sale, the winter sale, the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, Tabletop Simulator is almost always on one of those sales. So normally it's about around $15, um, but it goes on sale quite often for much cheaper than that. Um, Literally just purchasing it one time is cheaper than almost buying anything in Warhammer 40k. So that's already a bonus if that's your whole point of using it. While yes, it can play pretty much any board game under the sun for free, if you're just using it for 40k, mostly like I do, it in one purchase already pays for itself. One game using one model that you don't own will pay for it. So that's kind of how I look at it. Now, Tabletop Simulator, um, I wouldn't say is a substitute for playing 40k in the real world. The reason we play it is one because we're all located in different parts of the country, so us playing a game together isn't really an option. So we use this as a tool to kind of recreate that and that atmosphere of actually playing a game together in the real world. But it's also more than that. I have made plenty of purchases in 40k that I regretted later on. Numerous times. I played back in 4th edition. I was still, I must have been 9 or 10 years old playing at the time. And, I mean, I just bought what I thought looked cool. Which, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But years later, I am a lot more competitive than I was whenever I was younger. So I feel bad if I spend $50 on a model and it ends up being not very good whenever I actually use it, or not my style, right? So especially if you don't know which army you want to play, get into Tabletop Simulator, find a virtual army that looks good, and you kind of can build your own or whatever, and then you can play test. That's the biggest tool factor in this whole thing is being able to playtest your models before you buy them. Playtest an entire army or faction before you invest and paint up your entire army to look like Ultramarines, and then you're like, oh man, Dark Angels, those are way cooler, and now I've either got to sell all my models off and buy new ones or strip them all and then go through that whole process of repainting them all, which could take a while, especially if you're like me and you're a very slow, meticulous painter. And yeah, so doing it this way, I found that I could uh, pick units before I ever purchase them. Right, so I've got 3 armies in the real world and always looking to expand, but I want to know what I want to play first. All right. So with that out of the way, let's actually jump into Tabletop Simulator here. When you start up the game, this is what it looks like. You can either join someone that's already got a session going, and you're going to bring in your army and place it in, or if you're going to be the host, you can click Create, Multiplayer, Single Player. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to do Single Player here, and boom, jumps you right into it. So these are like pre-made or downloaded games that are kind of just included here in Tabletop Simulator for you. But what we're going to do is going to go to the workshop here. And this is all stuff I've downloaded. I've got Ultramarines armies, I've got Dark Angels, Blood Angels, more Dark Angels. These ones here in the middle are more just kind of generic. They were pulled from the Dawn of War games, and the 3D models were, and then just kind of saved as that. So there's not really any kind of actual real tabletop models here, but they do work. The great proxies, so it kind of pulls it all together. But there are more specific ones, like these up here are custom-made models to the actual real tabletop versions of them. So these weren't pulled from another video game and then put in just the models. People actually went in and created these models from scratch just for us to use on Tabletop Simulator, which is phenomenal. So we'll jump in here to the Dark Angels. They've got a cool, like, wide variety of models that I can show you here. So just click load. And some models may load, some models may not always have all their textures. So that's just kind of a risk you run. Wherever the model is saved on the server, sometimes the servers will have issues. But mostly, I don't think I've ever really run into big problems. Depending on the size of the army will determine how long it's going to take to load. Also, your computer and your internet. I have the worst internet ever. Literally, I'm capped out at 8 megabytes per second. Yeah, it's awful. My upload is 1 megabyte per second. It takes a while to upload these videos, needless to say. But where there's a will, there is a way. But even then, you saw that it didn't take long. I literally talked through the whole loading process there. So these are the models, right? So I mean, you can just use your WASD to move around, and then you use your mouse wheel to scroll in and out for your zoom. Right click, I can rotate my camera around, and then left click, I can pick up and move models. See how it raises that guy up really high? Say if I needed to get him inside of a building, I can go up here to my lift height, and then lower that. And so then I can like just kind of ease him into a building. I can hold right click, and then he'll just kind of slide around. So to see if he can like slide between a model. If you're trying to go into melee, right, you want to get him as close as in there as possible until he leans a little bit, and then release the left click, and then boom. So pretty cool stuff there. I mean, look at these models. I mean, you zoom in, and they start to kind of look a little funny, but you got to remember these were made literally from scratch. These models don't exist in any other kind of Warhammer game at the moment that I'm aware of, especially the Primaris. As you can see, these aren't actually even on the inner part here where the white is. They're on the edge because these weren't always here. I've had this army downloaded for a while, and then all these Primaris Marines just showed up one day, and I was like, oh yes, most definitely. If you've seen my the Ravenwing versus the Imperial Knights video, I used a lot of these Ravenwing models, and like Samuel and the Corvex. Really cool stuff. 2 different sizes here to kind of mimic the Sable Claw and the actual base that it would be on. Talon Master, that sort of thing. These really cool looking bikes, they just kind of threw some wings on already existing bikes. Sure, I'll take it. Better than nothing, right? More models that were literally just kind of put in here, created. So originally this is what I used for my Vengeance, and then a few weeks later someone came in here and put in the new models, which is amazing. And same thing with the Dark Shroud. That was the model I used before in that video, and then they came back a few weeks later, of course, after we filmed, and put in the actual Dark Shroud model. But yeah, I mean, more just really awesome stuff. They got the repulsor in here. I actually haven't even seen this yet, so again, always putting in new things for us to use. So you may be wondering, like, well, how do you do the ranges, right? So you come over here and you get your line tool, and it's always in inches, which is great for us American folk that are still using inches in the way of the West here. So yeah, that's 6 inches. So if you're trying to move your model and you need to know how far you can move them, boom, just like that. Pretty great. And I'll move us over to a map here in a second and show you kind of the different elevations and stuff, how that works. But yeah, so you need to move your 6 inches. Just grab your tool, pull out to 6 inches, let go, left click, and it'll ping for you. And then you know right where to move your guy, and boom, 6 inches. Super easy. Very, very user-friendly. Same thing with drawing for ranges, right? You got a 24-inch bolter, you know, you just come out here to 24 inches. You know how far you can go, no matter what direction. Line of sight, even easier than real life. You just simply zoom in, and you know, you look over the guy's shoulder. If you really want to get into it, you can go inside of his head and look just right where you can see here at the bottom is his backpack, and that's about where his head is. I'm literally inside of his head looking. So if someone says that you can't, if they don't believe that you can do it, tell them to go inside of his head, or control print screen, send it to them. You're like, this is what I see. You can't argue that. So line of sight has never been easier than it is with Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, let's move on to an actual battlefield now. Just wanted to come back in here and explain one little thing that I forgot in my original recording of this, was how I actually go about getting the models themselves and the battlefields. So when you come up into Steam here, you'll go to Browse the Workshop underneath the Tabletop Simulator area, and it'll bring you to this. And so then you come up here to the search bar and say, I want to say 40k Dark Angels. And just type that in, search, and boom, this is what it comes up with. So then you can come in here. So these are got all these different models saved, and then you can just kind of, you know, find one that you like that has a lot of stuff. Like this one has a lot of variety. I have this one personally saved, so you can click on it, and then you can hit subscribe. And once you hit that, then that's all you have to do. You don't actually download anything to it. When you go back into Tabletop Simulator and you go into the workshop there, this will just be located in there for you, ready to go, so you can load right into it. Same thing with battlefields. I don't know, battlefield. Let's see if that comes up with anything. There you go. So you already have all these like pre-made maps for you. I've played on a good number of these. At first it's fine playing on pre-made maps, but eventually you're going to get tired of that, and you're going to want to go on to your own, start making your own custom ones. If you've seen some of our battle reports, we have these really nice ones that have all of the buttons. Like this one has the stuff in the background there, so you can add in whatever you like onto your battle and custom make it right there. There are other ones that we have, which these right here, if you've seen our battles, we've played on these before, and what it has located for you is all these different bags up here are the different like the lines for your deployment, the different deployment types. They have them pre-drawn out, so you click this, and these lines fly out onto the battlefield, so you know exactly where you can and cannot deploy at. And then you click it again once you're done deploying, and it pulls everything back in off, so you don't have any of these lines drawn all over your battlefield, which is what we've done with a lot of our earlier videos. And so you'll have like command points, victory points, you'll know what turn you're on, the battle round, all kinds of really cool stuff like that. These different tokens, so you have like a -1 to hit, -1 to wound, that sort of thing, a +1 to hit against certain things. Cool maps like that. So what I recommend is taking a map like this with like a map, like a mat underneath, and then getting rid of all the terrain, and then saving that, and then you can just go in and every time make your own custom map if you want to. If not, if you just want to reuse the same maps that are available, I mean, that works too. So just eventually you'll run out of pre-made maps, and you'll have to kind of start making your own depending on how many you play. But yeah, so that's how you go about actually getting the models and the battlefields yourself. It's just to come into the workshop here and then just search for it. And it might take a couple of different searches depending on what you're doing, what you're looking for. To be more specific, I had a search for a Gilliman model, because in just the regular Ultramarines at the time, he wasn't located there, so I had to go into like Warhammer 40k, robe out Gilliman, and find him. I don't think at the time he had a model, but there was a pretty close one. It was, again, like I'll show you later in the video, is like an Incarn, where it was just him in this like full table that was completely empty except for him in the middle. So sometimes that's what you got to do to find those very specific models. So yeah, let's get back to it. All right, so right here is we found this was a pre-made map. Someone else made it. Um, so it works as a good fundamental map to use. You got your walls here to give that, that cover save if you're on the other side of it. Bunkers where you can't actually put guys inside of it, but I'll show you what we do. Come here to objects, saved objects, and I've got all my armies in here saved. I'll just pull out a random one here. And boom, see? So when you're in that army screen, you just set them all to the side, then highlight them, right click. What I do is save object. Just type in whatever, Dark Angels Army 1 or, Dark Angels 1500 point army. And then you just save it. And so then you come into your objects, saved objects like I did. Just click it, drag it out, and good to go. So then you can just move them as needed. And so like I was saying though, you can't fit your models inside, but you can set them on top, which is no big deal. And you can say, these are treated as inside the bunker to give them that cover save. I don't know of any reason they wouldn't be like, well, you can't actually fit your model inside, so you can't get the cover save. I don't think anyone that's going to be that meticulous, especially in Tabletop Simulator. Whoever you're playing, you probably know, so it just makes sense. But yeah, pretty easy to do. You just move them around the board, set them up, however you want. You got your HQs, and then behind them, you want your squads, and then, your fast attack over here, however you want to do it. All right, so then say you don't like this map, you want to change it up. So these are all these pieces here, we can move. They're all locked in place right now, so I'm going to hit L, and boom, it's unlocked. So I can move this wherever I want and just kind of reposition it. Say I want it to be a little bigger. I hit that plus sign, or a little smaller, hit that minus sign, it changes the size. No problem. It's going to be messed up because all these sandbags are kind of locked in place here. But yeah, so you just take all these and then you make them to how you want. You can right click again and then save object. So then you pull up a blank map, come into your objects, your saved objects, make a folder full of terrain, and look at all this I have saved. So I can just literally pull out, it's like, oh man, we need some more craters here. Oh, don't worry, I've got plenty of craters. So you pull it out, hit L to unlock it. Like, okay, we'll need a little bigger here. Maybe like a Titan shot this area with one of its big old cannons. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let me hit L. Boom, locked in place. So later on, when you're moving your guys around, you don't accidentally click the crater and it goes flying through the air, because that would be bad. Alright. But yeah, so I've got all this stuff here saved, so I could literally just kind of recreate any battlefield I want. It's like, oh, I really like the Sky Shield platform. Then we just right click and then save objects. So then I've always got it. No matter the battlefield I'm on, I can recreate all of this. Same with the storage containers there. It's like, I don't really like how that one is. Let me unlock it, pick it up, use my mouse wheel here to rotate it, and then boom. I was like, okay, now I've got a little more height there and a little more kind of tossed around. I don't know if you would want to do that with a storage container, but you get my premise here. Like this Chimera wreck. Say it was driving over the sandbags whenever it got shot, and so it's kind of like canted a little bit, and then let me lock it in place, and there we go. So super convenient, super easy, very great stuff. Like I was talking about earlier, let me close this out for you so you're not looking at it. Say want to get him in this building here. Well, there's all these different floors, right? So if I'm trying to get him in this bottom floor here, he keeps trying to go to these top ones. I let go, and then he falls down up here. Let me hit F to flip him back over. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So I want to get him down into that first floor, right? So he keeps going up high. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the edge, right click, so then he just hugs the ground. And then hit left click and let him go. If I hit left click again, though, without holding around right click, then he goes way up high. All right. But, I mean, very, very easy to use here. So got that. Hold down right click, and then just slide him in. Now, if you're going to have kind of reversed issues going on where your top floors are going to be bigger than your small. See, I've got the shadows here. I know to go off the shadows to hold down my right click. It may become a little bit more difficult to do. You can always just put them on the edge there, and then you can take the flick tool and then just kind of pull it out, and that's kind of how hard you're going to flick them. So, oh, well, I'm not really a master of this. But yeah, I mean, you'll be able to flick them around. So then he'll just kind of slide along the surface. Alright, so right here, I pulled up a Necromunda map, which you can use, you know, if you want to use it for a battlefield, go for it. These are a lot more detailed. They have a lot of stuff going on. Like this has, you know, effects like water falling. We got the electricity here. I'm not sure if it's actually getting recorded currently with the software I'm using. But right now, I can hear like a lightning effect, right? And we got the smokestack. We got this cool portal with this like jet coming through. As you can see, the textures didn't load, which is what I was talking about before. Sometimes that you just get stuck with some textures not loading. Thankfully, with the armies, you don't really ever see that happening. But some buildings, you might have that issue. But then, you know, if you have your objects and, you know, you pull up your terrain, then you can just pop that building out and pop in one of your own that you know has a texture. So not a big deal. As you can see, there's the back side of it. But yeah, I mean, look how detailed this map is. We got kind of a fire effect going on here. Not the best, but, you know, still pretty cool. You can obviously tell what's going on. But yeah, so I mean, the level of detail options that you have here is crazy. So like, there's the Steam object. I could just save that and then add it back in. Now, it does eat up a lot more bandwidth and computer resources to have stuff like this going on. We have had a map before where it literally had over 100 of these effects going on at once, and the other guys, they didn't have as much of a problem. They have a lot faster internet and a lot better computers than I do, but I had some serious lag. But the map was incredible. I mean, there was a volcano, a river, a waterfall, all these different portals. Like, this portal is just like an image that's saved. The portals that we had, they were like swirling around. I mean, they were it was an amazing map. I mean, to play on something like that in the real world is literally impossible. So for that option to be here was pretty cool. Now, if you don't want all you like the map, but you don't need all these effects, you can always just come in here and unlock them, and then just delete them. So you know, you just got to find where the little token is located, and then just delete it, right? So, just another one of the options. Alright, I pulled up a Tau army for you just to show all the different flavor options. So this is what is located inside of all of these different things. So you have all these different Tau seps right here, and they're all colored accordingly. So if you want to use your the Tau, just regular old Tau, you pull out these bags, or you can pull out the models individually, and then they will be colored according to the correct way. I don't know what is up with these devilfish, but a lot of them have this problem, but then they work, right? So they come out at first and they're all messed up, but then they work later on. But yeah, so these are all colored the correct way. So you don't have to proxy using, you know, these guys here, the Viola sept, and say, well, I'm using the Tau army ability, so just imagine that they're tan. No, you can literally come in here and pull out an entire tan Tau army. So pretty cool that it's all incorporated into this single single game that I saved, and instead of having to save each individual one that I want to use, which that a lot with the Space Marines, you'll run into that issue where you have to go in and save, you know, the specific Dark Angels, the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, specific ones, because they're not going to all be able to fit, because there's a lot more models for those guys than there are for our poor Tau here. Just to kind of show off some of the cool stuff, like look at the Commander Farsight here. Got the cool action pose going on, just like the actual model. We've got the Storm Surge here. You got your fire warriors, your broadsides, both variants. You can have your missile sides or your rail side, depending on what you want. Even got all of your gun ports, your shield walls, all your fortifications here. I mean, that's kind of that's going back to the investments I was talking about earlier. Right there, I mean, that's one of those points when you're like, man, that's really cool. I would like to try it, or maybe use it as terrain. Even you don't actually have to have it in your army; just have it as kind of a broken down part on the battlefield. And you want to build a Tau themed battlefield, then you can just come in here and save these. Super cool stuff. Or if you actually want to try them for yourselves, go for it, because I don't know if I could justify buying something like this without ever using it or seeing it used. And a lot of battle reports on like YouTube and stuff, you don't ever see fortifications. There's a reason for that. I've personally, the times I've used it, while it was fun, the shield walls were pretty cool with being able to bounce back bullets. They didn't really work for me. For the price I had to pay, meh. I mean, they were all right, but I think there's better options. And like this, the supremacy armor. There's no way I could afford that. I mean, I could barely afford a storm surge as it is. Even on like secondhand places like eBay, they're still pretty pricey. So for me to buy something like this is almost out of the question, and especially use. I mean, one, how many people are going to want to play against something like this? Very few. And then you got cool Forge World models like this, the Arvana battle suit here, and then the Ghost Kill, your classic stuff. Now you might not have all the models, but there are. I mean, this is just one of a great many of different like things that I have saved. If I come up here to my games, pull up my workshop, I'm like, okay, well, I need like a different option for my Tau. I've got this one saved here as well that I can pull up, and it has more variants. So the other one didn't have a lot of like gun variants for just my regular crisis suits. So I can come here and then save, and then this has more variety. So if you want your models to be more accurate to what they're carrying, you can do something like this, right? And so you got your Vespids, and then I think your Kroot are somewhere. Yeah, all these Kroot options over here, which the other one didn't have. So you might have to come to a couple different sources. Now these models aren't as nice looking as the other ones I just showed you, but they are still here. They're very convenient for use, right? And if you ever wanted to use the Manta, instead of purchasing a car, you could buy that in real life, or you could just test it out in Tabletop Simulator for free. So yeah, I think that'd be the better option, especially if you ever did buy this and ended up hating it. I mean, that's a lot of money that you could have used elsewhere in life. But yeah, so very cool stuff. Like I said, lots of options here. All these different armies. The Skitari. Wow, I can talk. And you got your knights here, the Cluster Mechanicus. I've got these like custom models saved for my HQs there. You can see it's got Ulthran, Illic, Ivrain, Eldrad. Very, very cool stuff like that. I will show you this one here, this Incarn. An incredible model. Literally has his own thing just for him. But he is huge, and look at this awesome effect that he's got going on. I mean, you can't recreate that in actual tabletop. So having it in the game, in Tabletop Simulator, you can have some pretty wild effects like that. If you're more inclined and want to build your own custom models, go for it. Adeptus has this one model of one of his Death Guard guys, and he's got like this green fog coming up from his base. Looks like he's like in kind of a plague swamp or something like that. You can do it. I mean, you'll just take the 3D model, and then you can go back in and then add that effect if you're a little more inclined than I am. I'm just here to play the game. I'm not much of a 3D modeler myself, so... but yeah, so just hitting the highlight points again, right? So playing with people across the nation. say you got a friend that moved away, and once a year you want to do like a like a recreate a battle that you did a long time ago, and you want to use the same people that you used in that battle, and you just want to kind of have a rematch over and over. And you can just take the models that you have in real life and load them up and just pick and create that army inside Tabletop Simulator. And then you can recreate the battlefield that you used in real life and put that into Tabletop Simulator. Or you can always fight on new battlefields with the same armies, whatever. Because people move away, people come and go all the time. But if they're really a good friend, you don't want to lose touch. Now, this is, I think, a good option if you're both big Warhammer fans for coming back and doing something like this. The second point for you is testing before you buy. If you're new to Warhammer 40k and you don't know where to start, Tabletop Simulator, if you have someone else that you can play with, is a great place. You don't know the army you want to buy. You don't want to invest $500, $100 to $500 in an army, depending on what you're going after. And then decide after the fact, like, well, I don't really like playing as these Marines that have these pustules all over them and are all gross looking and green. I think, maybe Tau is more my thing. Stand in one place and shoot, and then have really cool mechs. Yeah, I think I might try that. And then you go try that instead. So you didn't spend hundreds of dollars on Plague Marines just to not like them, and then go play something else. So play a couple of different games using all these different types of armies is definitely the way to go. You can there's great sources. There's a battle primer that's free online from Games Workshop themselves. I do recommend that getting the codex for the army that you decide to play, just so you have the official rules in hand for any kind of issues that may come up. There are like third-party sites out there or programs that help you build your list and stuff, but they might not always be accurate or have the most updated rules. So having the battle primers and the Q&As and all that stuff, or the FAQs that come out, just to have that solid source in hand is probably the way to go. And ultimately, this is never a substitute for the actual game. I'm a firm believer in, once you test your models and you decide what you like, don't keep using Tabletop Simulator as a crutch. While it is a good option to continue on, reusing, of course, don't you just use it once, like, okay, yep, this is the army I want to buy, and then go buy that stuff and never touch it again. Play other things as well, especially those that, it's like, well, I've got two armies that I'm pretty happy with in real life. I think I'm ready to start a third, but I don't know which one. Again, come back to this. Great test tool. Or even if you're a long-time player of a certain army and then a new model comes out and you're like, well, I don't know if it's worth the investment, the $80 investment. Play your normal army that you would play, and then, work in that new unit. Try them out a game or two with someone else. Because I'm sure they're probably thinking the same thing about another unit that's come out that they want to try. So then they'll do the same thing, and y'all can help each other. You scratch my, I scratch yours, you scratch mine, kind of deal. And third, ultimately, it's just a fun new alternative way to play. Using models like the Incarn here that you can't recreate this effect. You want to use these crazy battlefields that you otherwise wouldn't be able to play on or make. You say you don't have time to make a crazy battlefield that has an extensive amount of terrain, like those Necromunda maps. They've got them pre-made in there for you. So it's never been easier to get a game going. You literally just wake up in the morning, go sit at your computer on like a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee, and you texted your friend earlier that week like, hey, let's play like 9 a.m. on Saturday if you want to wake up that early. And then they literally have to roll out of bed, go sit at their computer as well. You go save your army, and then you pull up a pre-made map, you drop your army in, and boom, you are literally ready to go in mere minutes. So you don't have to drive to a store. You don't have to have purchased a whole bunch of models. You don't have to have painted all of your models. If you're not a very good painter like me, like I said, I'm very meticulous. so it takes forever for me to paint anything. I'm not a speed painter. And you have awesome choices of models like this to play with. It just makes the game a lot more convenient to play when needed. Like I said, nothing beats getting out there in the store, in the shop with all these other people around. You're talking about Warhammer. You're talking about, new rules that are coming out on, if you like them, you don't like them, that sort of deal. Say something slips the crack about a new FAQ'd unit that you didn't know got FAQ'd. You got other people there that are able to tell you, official rule people that are always there to help. You can't beat that ultimately. So while this is a great alternative, it is not as good as the real thing. I will say that. At the end of the day, nothing beats the experience of going to a store and playing tabletop. But for me, as my friends live across the nation, and I live literally in the middle of nowhere, like I said, terrible internet, it's a big investment, not only for the armies, but also to drive an hour in my gas-guzzling vehicle, and then I got to pay for food while I'm out for the day and all that stuff. The costs add up. But overall, I would say Tabletop Simulator is worth it. If you have the people that are willing to play and also invest in it, literally, you just need one other person to invest it. Just 2 people there to play in a game, and there's literally 3 of us that play regularly, and that alone has been worth it. The $15 that for full price that this was for me is worth it. Just the couple games that I could have played on it would have made it worth it. However, I have played, I don't know, 50-ish games maybe, at least between me, Creed, and Adeptus. If you can't factor all the games that we've played against each other, we've probably broken over 100 in just the 6 months that we've played on Tabletop Simulator. So overall, I recommend it. So I hope this video was super helpful for you. If this is your first time to the show, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. I do these videos mainly just for fun, but knowing that people out there actually like the content and want to see more of it, that lets me know that I should keep making more content. This is super fun, and I really enjoy it, but it is a lot of work on top of my normal everyday life things. So if you put a comment below on what you thought of this or anything like that, if you're interested in coming and playing me and being on the show sometime, send me a message, and we'll set up a time and play a game. I can always show you how Tabletop Simulator works. I'm not much of a teacher of 40k itself, as it's kind of extensive, so if you've never played the game before, I don't know if I'm exactly the person to teach you, but Tabletop Simulator, I'm more than welcome to show you how it works, and then for us to play a game and get you on the show. So with that, we'll see you in the